because they're certainly not politically sophisticated or politically thoughtful.
Michael Moore could only have become popular in a vacuum. If there were a vibrant left in the United States, Michael Moore's milquetoast radicalism would be laughed at rather than laughed with.
Given that he is, I think, a very smart guy, I was surprised at some of the fatuousness of some of the connections that he was making.
Charges of manipulation and hyperbole have dogged Michael since Roger and Me. He uses the tools of the editor to break the principles of the journalist trade. And in Fahrenheit 9/11, he's up to his old tricks.
What do you say to critics who say you manipulate facts in your film to make your point? That's true. What do you think? Film is edited. It is manipulated to present a point of view. The facts in the film are 100% completely true. I didn't put the words or the semi-words in Bush's mouth. That's him speaking. That's not me, doing a ventriloquist thing.
In Fahrenheit 9/11, Michael uses this speech.
This is an impressive crowd, the haves and the have-mores.
But he fails to mention that Bush is speaking at the Al Smith dinner, a Catholic fundraiser where politicians are supposed to tell jokes and poke fun at themselves.
Some people call you the elite. I call you my base.
It's not fair to use something said in that context to make a point that it was not intended to make, even if there's some truth behind that point.
And I see Bill Buckley's here tonight. Fellow Yale man.
Bush comes off as a guy who's capable of self-mockery, which is a very valuable political trait.
We go way back, and we have a lot in common.
And Moore comes off as someone who doesn't fight fair.
Bill wrote a book at Yale. I read one.
I think he abuses people. I would suspect that many people who have been in his films would only prefer that they had not been.
All those soldiers in my movie where I just turned the camera on and let them speak to the camera and express their disillusionment and their dissatisfaction with this war.
Sergeant Peter Damon is one of several soldiers who would have preferred not to have been in Fahrenheit 9/11. He's a staunch supporter of George Bush and the war in Iraq. Although he sued Moore and lost, he still feels helpless at how he was unwittingly portrayed by Michael Moore.
What happened was he apparently had found an interview that I had done on battlefield pain medication. When I first got back from Iraq, it was right before I was going into surgery. You can plainly see my arms, my stumps, they were kind of just sewn up, there were scars. Like I still feel like I have hands, and the pain is like my hands are being crushed in a vice. I guess the message that Michael Moore was trying to get across was that, the Bush administration is leaving all these. They don't care about the guys that are over there fighting war. They come back and they just leave them behind.
He's smart enough to very rarely say anything that is simply provably untrue. But he's very good at the suggestion, the guilt by association, the manipulation of an out-of-context image.
I happen to agree with Bush's decision to go to Iraq. I think it had to be done sooner or later. I mean, I joined the military fully realizing the risks that were involved, and joining the military was the best thing I've ever done with my life.
How do you like yourself on camera?
Oh, hate it.
David Gilmour interviewed Michael Moore when he was a film critic for the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. In his 15 years of doing interviews, David says the one he did with Moore about Canadian bacon is the one everyone remembers. This is Michael's only dramatic film and is one of his rare failures.
I suspected, and it turned out to be true, that the second I asked him, the first thing he didn't like to hear, the little persona of the sweet little boy, the regular guy, that mask slipped off, and I thought, that's the real Michael Moore. There are people who are having real serious problems with this movie, Canadian Bacon.
You got a list?
Yeah, I got a list. Well, I got a long list. They think it's amateurishly shot, badly directed,
right,
and not funny.
Right, wow.
Which is a problem for a comedy.
Well, those people like art house films, Right. And I made a film, for people like me. Some critics said this is the first left-wing film for the mall crowd. And I don't know whether he was knocking people who go to shopping malls or, live in trailer parks or whatever, but I consider that a compliment. I mean, where are you from?
Toronto.
Yeah, where'd you, and where
Where'd
was
I go
your
to school?
Yeah, where'd you go
I
to
went
school?
to private schools.
So, you know, you come from a different class than I come from.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, you might like different things than I like.
I don't think it's got anything to do with a highbrow intellectual crowd. I think it's possible that maybe you didn't make a good film, and I think you got to acknowledge that rather than dismiss the people who don't like your movie as if there's something wrong.
I don't have to acknowledge it. I think I made a very good film, a film that I'm very proud of.
He was really quite a schizophrenic interview because I could tell that he wanted me dead, but at the same time, I had him on film, and the only way that he was going to get that off film was to make me like him again.
But some people won't love the film.
Right.
It's okay. You don't have to love the film.
Right. Okay.
You know, I'll still talk to you.
Here's a guy who makes his living going around, dropping in on people, putting a camera on them, catching them in awkward positions, and then filming them. All I'm saying is, if you're going to do that for a living, you got to be prepared to have it happen to you. And when it does happen to you, you better behave with some grace. Otherwise, you're going to look like a hypocrite.
We're on our way to Kent State University to videotape Michael Moore on another stop in his Slacker Uprising tour. Kent State is hallowed ground in the anti-war and freedom of speech movement, where the shooting of students by National Guards in 1970 helped turn the tide against the Vietnam War. Michael Moore and his people were now demanding everyone attending his press conference show credentials. Although Chum Television commissioned our documentary to air on City TV, we had no business cards. With this setback, we decided to step over the line. We made cards to show at the door so we could get in, a trick we learned from Michael Moore.
My friends and I decided to pose as a TV crew from Toledo to sneak inside the factory.
You are? Debbie Melnick with City TV. City TV. We get into the press conference and wait for Michael to arrive.
Has anyone ever approached Michael Moore on doing a documentary with him? People can do what they want, you know. I mean, if they want to video him and make a documentary about him, I'm sure that's up to them. So everybody ready? Okay, so it looks like it's about to happen. He's going to be joined by a special guest, as I mentioned. And the two of them are going to be here together. So, and here they are.
Hello. Thank you for being here. We have a special guest with us here. As you can see, Roseanne is joining me tonight. We are now just a little more than a week away from the big election day, and we're cautiously optimistic.
I finally confront Michael about the bad treatment we're getting from his staff, but he seems surprised by our problems.
Michael, I just want to say I really love your films, and I think what you're doing, getting the kids out to vote, is a wonderful thing. I'm a bit disappointed because I've been trying to get an interview with you for the past couple of months. I'm the Canadian that's been trying and left messages with Terry and your lawyer, Mr. Hurwitz, and stuff, and haven't gotten any response. And also, you know, we tried to plug into the soundboard at Wayne State, and your bodyguard told my cameraman he had to unplug. And
oh, really?
Well, can you help out? I mean, why?
I'm sure after the election, but right now, no offense, and you know I love the Canadians, but every moment of every waking, every day I have is spent on trying to convince Americans to get out and vote, and I'm sorry that I haven't. That hasn't happened, but it's not. You can understand that's not the priority.
Right.
Do you
understand that
and respect it?
I do respect that.
Okay, so then perhaps sometime after the election, maybe.
Is that a promise? Because we want to do something with someone.
No, because I'm going to sleep for 6 months. But I think I already said that. But you know, when I wake up, I always love to talk to Canadians.
No, you don't have to leave. Oh, they're taking their Bush Cheney signs out.
On stage, Michael Moore ridicules the Republicans as they leave.
Na 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 na. Hey hey, goodbye. Na 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 na. Hey hey, goodbye. Oh well, you know they were welcome to stay. You know it's I hadn't even got to the good part.
Suddenly, Michael's publicist and security arrive and kick me and my cameraman out. I guess he was more aware of our film than he let on earlier. Ann Moore, Michael's sister, forces our camera to the ground, but it isn't turned off.
Who are you with?
City TV.
You have false credentials. You got it. All your free passes.
You broke my camera.
Oh, bullshit.
She starts to interrogate me.
Let me have your credential, and your license. Do you see this sign?
Right.
Do you have permission to film for commercial purposes?
Documentaries aren't
Did you see the
considered...
sign?
No, I didn't see the sign.
Okay. There is no filming that is allowed here without permission because there's no commercial ventures. We allow people to film who are part of the affiliates or part of free TV, but not for commercial purposes such as yours.
But news media such as ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, CNN are a lot more commercial-oriented than documentaries.
I want to know who your supervisor is. I'll call right now. Give me her cell phone number. Stop driving my camera. Can you just escort these people out of here? We'll keep your ID and mail it back to you.
No, you're not going to be keeping my ID. Sorry, you're not keeping my ID. That's bullshit.
Filming for commercial purposes.
Yes, please filming right now. You need to stop that.
Yeah, you need to turn down.
So we're being banned.
So you need to leave the building.
We're being banned from a Michael Moore speech, who is for freedom of speech. Thank you.
Let's go.
There is something in the air. There is a stillness in the air. There's an excitement in the air.